My mom 39F lied to me 17M, and my real dad late 30s M just showed up for the first time. Sorry if this is incoherent, but my mind is racing right now. My dad died when I was 8 years old. Well, the man I thought was my dad did. My mom dated other men, but she's never remarried or had a serious living boyfriend since, so I've basically been without a dad since I was 8, but earlier today this man came into my work. I work at a movie theater in the concession stand, by the way, so this man came in and kept letting people go ahead of him in line until I was done helping the customer I was with. I didn't think anything at first, but this guy was kind of nervous but trying to talk to me. He asked what I recommended to eat and asked what kind of movies I liked. He seemed friendly but shy, and I was just being polite and making conversation like we're supposed to do with customers. Anyway, he paid and left, and I didn't see him when his movie finished cause it was busy, or maybe he didn't even watch a movie. Anyway, I got off work a little bit ago, and when I got home, that same man was in my living room talking to my mom, and it kind of creeped me out, and my mom started panicking when I asked who he was, and she just kept saying he's he's leaving, but the man said he wasn't leaving until we talked and said she needs to tell me the truth. Well, you can guess from the title. He said he's my dad. I just felt this twist in my stomach. My mom started rambling, saying my dad that died was my real dad, and how much he loved me and took care of me, and that this doesn't change. That the thing is, something happened last year that made me question my mom about my dad and my medical history. She said she didn't know anything about it, but today I just yelled at her that she could have told me then and there that he wasn't my biological father, but she didn't. I asked if this man was telling the truth, and she just started crying and nodding. I guess I didn't notice at the theater because it was never something I would even think of, but looking at him, it's pretty clear we're related since he looks so much like me, or I guess I look like him is more accurate. He tried to talk to me and swore he never knew I existed or he would have been in my life. My mom didn't deny any of this. I asked her if this man was dangerous or an abusive ex or something he was offended, and she assured me it wasn't that at all. She wanted to sit down and talk, but I just felt so nauseous and overwhelmed, so I just grabbed my keys and told my mom I was staying at my best friend Josh's house for the night. I came here, and Josh was sympathetic and let me vent, but he fell asleep, and now I'm just here awake, and my brain won't shut off. I feel so betrayed by my mom. How could she not tell me the truth when I was little? I understand, but I'm old enough to know where I come from. It feels so unfair that she denied me a father for half my life. I loved my dad that died, and I still miss him, but I've wanted a father for so long. There's so much I've gone through where I feel like having a dad would have been so much better and easier. I love my mom, and she's been incredible in raising me, but it's not the same as having a dad, especially when this guy is my actual dad, and it seems like he would have been there if he knew I what to say to him or to my mom. I know I have to go home eventually, but I just don't know what I'm supposed to say. Or do he probably hates me and thinks I'm a crybaby because I cried and stormed out. I feel lost. Update when I know I didn't reply to any comments. After the first few hours that my original post was up, I woke up the next morning and saw a bunch of new comments. Though I didn't reply, I did read all of them, good and bad. I appreciate all the advice given and kind words spoken, but like many people suggested, the only thing I could really do was talk to both of them to figure out what the real story was. So I went home and talked to my mom. I was much calmer with a clearer head and was ready to hear what she had to say. I probably learned more than anyone should ever have to about their own conception. Turns out my father really isn't an abusive ex. My mom didn't cheat on my adoptive dad or anything shady like that. I'm just the product of a one-night stand. My mom said she went out drinking by herself at a bar and met my dad, who was celebrating his 25th birthday alone. She said she had just been dumped by her fiancé, not my adoptive dad, different man, a week before that, because she had learned from her doctor that it was virtually impossible for her to have children naturally. She said her and my dad used a condom, and yet somehow she still got pregnant with me, and I'm her miracle baby. Considering the circumstances, she went back to the hotel that he took her to after she found out she was pregnant, but they couldn't find any info on my dad ever staying there. He didn't give her his actual first name, explained in more detail later in post. She said this was before social media was a thing, so she couldn't just search him online like we can do nowadays, so she decided she would just raise me on her own. She also admitted she panicked when my bio dad showed up because to her he was literally just a guy she knew for one Night 17 years ago, she didn't really know who he was now or if he was going to try to get custody of me or if I was going to want to run away with him or something. She admits she could have been calmer from the beginning and maybe we could have all talked and sorted it out that night, but I don't blame her for it. As for my adoptive dad, the man that raised me, she said she didn't meet him until I was almost 2. They got married when I was 3. He officially adopted me after they got married. She showed me the adoption certificate. Reflecting on it now, I realize I've never seen pictures of he and I when I was a baby, just pictures of me as a toddler. And up, she said he accepted me as his own and loved me, and being a father to me, I told her my biod dad showing up doesn't rewrite history. I'll never not see my adoptive dad as my father. If anything, it makes me love him even more that he treated and loved me as his own flesh and blood. I also ended up talking to my dad. He left his number, which my mom gave to me. We met up for lunch. He confirmed my mom's whole story. I gave him __ about using a fake name. It wasn't so cut and dry. He said he goes by his middle name, which is what he told her that night. He showed me his business card, which does have the name he told my mom that night, and I've since looked him up using the name he gave my mom, which nowadays he's very easy to find with it. And his entire online presence uses his middle name. He has comments on his Facebook from friends and family calling him that name going back years. Apparently, he only goes by his actual first name for legal and business reasons, like checking into a hotel. He said that night he was depressed that his best friend didn't live to celebrate their 25th birthday together. They had the same birthday, and that's why he drove to our town to get away from everyone and everything back home for a night. He apologized a million times and said he would have been in my life if he had known, especially because I inherited a medical condition from him, and it really sucked dealing with that and having to learn to adjust to it alone. He was diagnosed with it when he was 19, so he knew what I went through. I could tell he genuinely felt awful about it. I asked him how he even found out about me, and apparently he has a son who is only 5 months younger than me. So his ex-wife son's mom is a teacher, and she saw a picture that my school's website posted of the academic team I'm on. She had sent it to my dad, thinking I might be related to him because we look so alike. He said he has a brother he hasn't spoken to in over 20 years, so they both initially thought I could be his nephew. But he found my Instagram, which is public, and he said when he saw a picture of me and my mom on it, he instantly recognized her, and he knew I was his. And I know people will ask, but no, he did not cheat on his ex-wife with my mom. He didn't meet her until a couple months after the night with my mom. He even admitted they only got married because she got pregnant early in the relationship, and they're divorced now because they're not actually compatible. He offered proof and to even call her himself right there to confirm, but I told him it wasn't necessary. He had visited my mom earlier the day that he visited me at work and confirmed with her, even though he already knew between my face and the math lining up. But he said he went to the theater anyway, because even though he had seen pictures of me, he said he had to see me for himself in person. He said we still need to do a DNA test to establish paternity, and so he can add me on his insurance. But between our faces, my birth date, and us having the same rare medical condition, it's obvious he's my dad. Even the waitress made a nonchalant comment about us being father and son. He asked if we could start having visits to get to know each other. And of course I said, yes, I want to know him, even though I still feel some anger at him, and I don't really even know why exactly. TBH, I want to have him in my life. My mom said I can't go to his house for Christmas or even at all. He lives an hour away until she feels comfortable with me leaving to visit him, but she said he can come visit on Christmas night, and we'd go from there. At the end of lunch, I brought out my debit card to pay my half of the meal. I didn't really know what the etiquette is for first lunch with a buyout parent. As a teenager, he just laughed and said, I'm his son, and I don't ever have to pay for anything when I'm with him. But that made me feel really good. And then he made a joke about owing my mom 17 years of child support anyway, which really just eased the whole situation. He walked with me to my car and gave me a hug, which made me start crying. I know it's cringy, and I was embarrassed that I was crying in the middle of a diner parking lot, but I just felt an instant connection to him when he hugged me, even though he's still basically a stranger to me. He said some stuff to me while he was hugging me and just let me cry for a couple minutes. It's still early, I know, but I can just tell he's a good man, regardless of who he was when he met my mom. And whatever happened that night, he sought me out after learning about me, so that has to count for something, right? He could have pretended. He never saw my Instagram, or even after talking to my mom and her sending him away, or after meeting me at the movie theater, or after I stormed out when he came to talk that same night. He had so many chances to walk away, but he didn't give up. That shows me that he really does want to have a relationship with me. Anyway, now my issue is scrambling to find him a last-minute Christmas present. I have no idea what to get him. He's a lawyer, so from what I could tell from Googling him and the address he gave me, he's rich. He probably has everything he already wants. If anyone has any ideas what a man in his early 40s would want or be able to make use of as a Christmas gift, I'd love some suggestions. Update 2. Hi, everyone. I wasn't really planning on posting another update, but people have asked and messaged me wanting to know what happened on Christmas. I'll try to keep this one briefer than my last post. In short, it was the best Christmas I've had in years, and I just want to thank this sub for the advice on the photo album gift. It was honestly the perfect gift. So my dad ended up FaceTiming me on Christmas morning while he was at his parents' house. He had told them about me the night before, and they didn't want to wait to meet me, so we video chatted for a little bit. They seemed like really nice people. They just kept complimenting me, my academic achievements, and saying how I look so much like my dad when he was my age. They want to meet me soon, but they live a few hours away, so it will take some time to set something up. I also very briefly talked to my half brother on the same call. Our dad kind of put us on the spot. I think he was just excited for us to meet. We said hi, and I said Merry Christmas, and he said it back. And then he told our dad, I don't know what else you want me to say before walking away. So yeah, not the introduction I was imagining, but he and I are set to meet in person on New Year's Eve. So I'm hoping that meeting goes a lot better. My dad showed up alone on Christmas night. Half brother was at his mom's house for Christmas and brought 2 huge boxes of Christmas gifts. He bought me a ton of clothes and shoes, practically a new wardrobe, and I can actually see myself wearing most of the stuff he bought. He also got me an iPad Pro and a gaming PC. He said he wanted to get me a PS5, but they're notoriously hard to get, so he's going to keep an eye out and grab me one as soon as he can. Honestly, I'm surprised he was able to get me as much as he did, considering we made the plan the week before Christmas. He also bought my mom a few things, which I think really surprised her, but she was very grateful. I actually felt really bad that I only got him one gift in comparison, but thankfully he really liked it. I thought he didn't at first because he started crying looking at all the pictures of me and started apologizing again, saying he was sorry he was never there, but he did say he loved it, and it was a very thoughtful gift. He especially loved that I made a page for our first Christmas photo and that I asked if we could fill out the rest of the album together. Also, I did include one page of pictures of me and my adoptive dad. I didn't want the album to be full of pictures of my adoptive dad so as not to seem insensitive, but I also wanted my biod dad to know he was an important part of my life. After that, we just spent the night talking, setting up my new PC, and watching it. A Wonderful Life, my favorite Christmas movie. Before I told him that it was my favorite, he said it was in his top 3 Christmas movies, but now it's his favorite too because we watched it together. It got really late, so my mom let him stay in the guest room so he didn't have to drive back home. He lives an hour away in the dark and rainy weather. He treated us to breakfast the next morning and invited us to stay at his house for New Year's Eve, which surprisingly, my mom said we can go. One final note, a few comments told me that my adoptive dad was and will always be my dad too, and I agree 100%. A couple days ago, I went to the cemetery to visit his grave and talk to him. This is the first time I've ever gone there alone. Truthfully, I don't know if I really believe in heaven or the afterlife, but on the off chance that he is out there somewhere watching over us, I wanted him to know that no matter how close I may get with biod dad, he will never replace my adoptive dad in my heart. So that's about it. I'm meeting my half-brother in person in a couple days, and hopefully my paternal grandparents soon after. Also, we're getting the paternity test done on Monday, but that really is just a formality, mostly for insurance purposes. At this point, thank you again for all the advice on both my previous posts. I hope you all had a great Christmas and have a happy new year. Smile. Update 3. My half-brother hates me. Just want to preface this by saying that the majority of this was written on New Year's Day, so sorry if I come off as a jerk. I was just really upset that day. I didn't post it until now because I went back and forth on whether or not it would even matter. I didn't post it on the advice subreddit because I just don't see a point in asking for advice, considering how the night when I don't know if anyone will Even see this, I was told to post this on my own profile, and I think I've done it correctly. With that being said, new years you've sucked, I thought I was prepared to meet my half-brother. A lot of people told me to go in with low expectations, be patient, don't expect him to warm up to me right away, and I was ready for that. I was ready for him to maybe be too shy to talk or be uninterested and avoid me, or just be on his guard and keep interaction to a minimum. I was ready for so many unfortunate but understandable scenarios. What I was not ready for was for him to hate me before I even walked through the door. Me, my mom, and my best friend Josh, 17, got to their house around 8 at night. My dad was happy to see us. Then he introduced us to my half-brother Ryan, 16, and the first thing Ryan said to me was, "You're shorter in person," which I don't even know if he'd seen very many pictures of me, but I'm 5 feet 11 inches, and so I'm not exactly short, and he and I were about a level, so it was kind of a weird thing to say, but I work in customer service, so I'm used to letting snide comments roll off my back. I just laughed at off and made a comment about how I'm hoping to gain a few more inches of height before I stopped growing. Dad gave us the house tour, and his house is insane. I knew he was well off, and I'm not sure if this is considered a rich house by most people's standards, but he has 5 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. There's a whole office that looks more like a mini library, and Ryan has a huge game room. It blew my mind. He even offered me my choice of the 3 guest rooms to be my own room for when I visit. Ryan rolled his eyes and let out a not at all subtle huff. Me and Josh gave each other a WTF look, cause it was honestly unnecessary. The night went on, and we were all talking in the living room. Ryan just sat on an armchair looking pissed off the whole time. Our dad was trying to get a conversation going between Ryan and I with multiple different topics, and I was trying to engage in a conversation with Ryan, but he limited most of his answers to yes, no. And I don't know, he was nicer to my mom, though still not enthused when she asked him things, which I at least appreciate that, because if he would have been rude to her, I know I wouldn't have been able to hold myself back from saying something. At one point, my dad told Ryan to help Josh bring over a few food platters from the kitchen. My mom took the opportunity to ask my dad if he had even asked Ryan how he felt about us coming over. My dad said he did ask Ryan twice, and both times Ryan said it was fine. He was clearly embarrassed about how Ryan was acting, but he said it's probably just weird for him and he'll talk to him, and that Ryan just needs more time. I asked Ryan if we could play some games in his game room, cause it really is a cool looking room. He made an excuse about not wanting to mess up his save files on his games. I was just thinking you can obviously make separate save files and delete them afterwards. But again, for whatever reason, I just made an excuse for him, saying I understood, but our dad told him to show us the room, so we went to the game room while my mom and dad hung out in the living room, which is adjacent. Ryan booted up one of his games and was playing single player. He didn't offer to let us join, and at this point in the night, Josh and I didn't even bother asking, cause it was obvious he would make an excuse to not let us play. I did ask him what game he was playing and what it was about, because it did look like a fun game. He told me it's hard to explain, and it would probably be easier to just Google it. Josh just let out this stifled laughter, which just made me laugh too, because it was honestly ridiculous. Ryan was being rude at every opportunity without fail. I know that probably makes us sound like underscore under, but at this point in the night, all we could was laugh, because it was a situation that just kept getting more and more bizarre. I think we were both just sitting there wondering if this guy was serious. He asked what was so funny, and I just lied and said we remembered something funny that happened at school a few weeks ago. Thankfully, he didn't ask for specifics, although I'm pretty sure even if he did believe me, he didn't care enough to ask anything about my life. Josh and I went back to the living room, and I asked my dad if it was cool if we checked out my room again. He said of course, but asked about Ryan. I had to awkwardly tell him I think we needed a little bit of space at the moment, which he stood. So Josh and I went to the room and just hung out there ourselves until about 11:30, when my mom and dad called all of us to the living room. They must have strategized while we were all away, because they sat us down and tried to get us to talk and address the situation. Ryan just kind of shut down and wouldn't really answer anything. He just looked annoyed. Our dad asked him if there was anything we could do to make things more comfortable for him, and Ryan just straight up said us, me, my mom, and Josh leaving would help. Our dad said that obviously that wasn't going to happen, considering how late it was, and the entire point was to celebrate New Year's together. So Ryan said fine, if we wouldn't leave, then he would and he walked out the front door. It was about 10 minutes to midnight at that point, so our dad follows him out to stop him, and they got into a huge argument on the front porch. It was so incredibly awkward. I can't even begin to properly describe it. My mom was frantically looking for the TV remote to turn the volume up to drown out the sound. I couldn't hear everything they were saying, but I heard bits and pieces. My dad was upset, saying he asked Ryan if it was okay if we came over, and he said it was fine twice. Ryan shout that he changed his mind. Dad said, that's okay, but we were already here, and the least he can do is be cordial and try to make the best of it. At one point, Ryan shouted that we're not family, and I'm not his brother, which I admit that really stung. It's weird because I had already decided hours before that I didn't like him, but for some reason it still hurt hearing him say that. Ryan said we haven't even taken the test yet, which is fair. We haven't yet, but it is planned for Monday, and Dad was already just inviting me to their holiday celebrations. I think Ryan is the only one who thinks, or maybe just hopes, that the test is going to be negative. My mom finally got the TV on full blast. The three of us kind of awkwardly counted down the last 5 seconds and quietly wished each other a happy new year. I was trying to keep it together, but it all kind of sunk, and that my idea of what the night would be just fell apart. The whole reason we were there was to ring in the new year with my dad and half-brother, but neither of them were even there. I wish I would have just stayed home. About 5 minutes after midnight, Ryan came back inside, didn't say a word. He just quickly walked upstairs to his room. My dad came up to us and apologized profusely and said he thinks Ryan needs more time to come around. He did hug me for the longest time, apologizing again. I wanted to tell him that I hated Ryan. I wanted to say that he was rude and immature, that we are clearly two very different people, because I would never in a million years be as disrespectful as he was to us, to a guest in my mother's home. But I just felt so bad for my dad, who must have been in such a difficult position. It was like when he was hugging me to comfort me, he needed support too. So instead, I just said that I understood. He said he was grateful to me for being so patient. But the truth is, I was angry. I wanted to go home, but thankfully everyone was pretty tired, and we all called it a night. The next morning, my dad made us all breakfast. Ryan was up in his room the whole time. My dad went to check on him, but came back down saying he was still asleep. If that's actually true or not, I wouldn't be surprised if Ryan was just refusing to come down and have breakfast with us. So breakfast was actually great. We all avoided talking about the night before and just had a nice conversation. Josh and my dad got along really well, which was awesome because Josh is my chosen brother. We've been through a lot together. After breakfast, we left. Ryan never came down from his room, and the truth is I was completely fine with that. My dad apologized again. He apologizes a lot and said he'd see me on Monday after school to finally take the paternity test. On the ride back home, my mom kind of broke the silence, saying, Caleb, I'm not so sure about what the results of that test will be anymore, because your brother's kind of an underscore in me. And Josh just started dying of laughter. It was even funnier because the whole ride over there, she kept drilling it into my head to be nice and not expect him to like me right away. And Josh was saying he was so surprised I didn't punch him in the face at some point. I know that probably makes us seem awful, but it felt so good to if people that love me have my back, and agreed that it wasn't just me being crazy or oversensitive. Ryan took it up to 100 and stayed there the whole night. I didn't even realize it until then, but it was like the whole time we were there, I was holding my breath, and on the ride back, I felt like I could finally breathe again. I thought that was the end of it, but I got a text message from Ryan later that day. I'll just post it here since it's short picture of the text in the video description. He never replied. Maybe I took too long to reply. Josh and I were playing basketball at the time, so I didn't have my phone on me, or maybe he didn't like that I wrote too much back. I tend to write a lot if that wasn't obvious by now. Either way, it doesn't seem like Ryan cares to hang out with me. So yeah, not at all what I was expecting. I debated even posting this because so many people seemed happy about my last couple posts. I thought maybe it would be better for people to think we met and everything was perfect, but that's not reality. I really wanted it to work. I don't even know where to go from here after school. Today I drove to the city and met up with my dad to take the DNA test. It's done. Up until now, I've been 100% confident on what the results will be, but now I'm second guessing everything. Like, what if I'm not actually his kid? What if I just wasted his time and his money the last few weeks? My mom says there is no possible way he's not my dad, because he was the only guy she was with during the time she got pregnant with me. And I believe her, but I still feel this uneasiness in my stomach. Maybe I'm just overthinking it. He paid extra for the rapid results, so we'll know for sure. Within 2 days, maybe it doesn't even matter at this point. Ryan seems determined to not let me be a part of their family. I'm sorry that this wasn't a happy update. I really wanted it to be. Update for it's official. He's my dad. My dad FaceTimed me from his car yesterday afternoon. He said he just gotten off work and he got the DNA results. My stomach was in knots because I couldn't really get a read on his face, but then he just smiled and said, "You're mine." Kiddo, I just felt this huge wave of happiness and relief wash over me. I was so sure he was my dad until after we took the test and doubt and fear started creeping in. But now that it's been officially confirmed with a blood test, I'm so freaking happy I have a dad again. After he told me he actually showed up at the front door, he wasn't really at work when he FaceTimed me. He had gotten the results a few hours before and he wanted to celebrate in person. So when he called me, he'd actually just been sitting outside my house in his car. Him and my mom planned the whole thing out. He brought a cake and a little balloon that said it's a boy on it, which was pretty hilarious. Haha, I was on cloud 9. All night we called my grandparents to tell them, and they were really happy for us to my dad. And I decided that we're going to go visit them next weekend since I have a 3-day weekend. Kind of nervous about that, especially because I'll be so far away from home, but they seem really great and just as excited as I am to meet. So I'm hoping for the best. Sorry if I seem by par with my posts. It's just been a roller coaster with ups and downs, but for right now, I'm beyond ecstatic. I can't stop looking at the picture of the results. Update 5. Weekend trip part 1. I split this post into 2 because it was just too much writing. I really need to work on condensing things. I know I'll probably post the second half tomorrow, but in short, the trip didn't turn out as well as I'd hoped, but my grandparents are amazing, lovely people. I finally got to meet my grandparents this past weekend. We had the plan set that my dad and I would leave on Saturday morning and come back Monday afternoon. Unfortunately, my dad had a work crisis come up and he called me on Friday afternoon to tell me he wouldn't be able to go. I was so bummed, and I know he felt really guilty, but at the same time, I really wanted to meet my grandparents, and I already scheduled the days off at work, so I kind of had my weekend planned around going. I consider myself an independent person, so I didn't mind going by myself, even though I obviously would have preferred my dad to be there. My mom, on the other hand, felt differently. She didn't want me to drive that far away on my own. It's about 3 hours away, so we compromised, and she said, if Josh goes with me, I can go. And as soon as Josh heard they live right by a lake, he was in Ha, I called my grandparents and they said they would love if I still came and that Josh was more than welcome to come along. So he and I drove over on Saturday, and when we got there, I was nervous as hell. We knocked, and when they came to answer the door, I instantly recognized them from our FaceTime call on Christmas, but for some reason my brain shut down for a second and I stupidly asked if they were their first names, and they both laughed. And my grandpa said, don't you dare call us by our first names, you call us Grandpa and Grandma, and my grandma chimed in saying, Josh better call them the same because they don't have enough grandkids, and now they have 2 more. I loved them right then, and there it was just such a breath of fresh air. After the meeting with Ryan, we went inside, set our bags down, and had lunch. My grandma made sandwiches, and we all just talked about our lives for a couple hours. My favorite part was hearing about their lives, how they met, what their parents were like. It's like this whole other side of my family tree just opened up, and I'm learning so much about where I come from. I could have listened to their stories all day. TBH, they showed me a bunch of pictures of my dad as well. TBH, I thought they were just being kind and trying to make me feel welcomed when they kept telling me how much I look like him in his youth. But then I saw the pictures of him as a teenager, and I understood what they meant. It literally looked like it could be pictures of me if I was wearing 90s clothes and had a bad haircut. Me and Josh were both shocked at how strong the resemblance is. Later in the day, my grandma wanted to make a pie for dessert. She said she loves to bake, and we were celebrating, so she offered to teach us her family recipe for cherry pie. As we were finishing up with the pie, we were surprised to see my dad show up. He said the work issue got resolved a lot easier than he thought it would, so he headed straight over there. I was thrilled until I saw Ryan walk through the door shortly after him. I was confused because my dad said that was his mom's weekend. I discreetly asked about it while Ryan was saying hi to our grandparents, and he just said it didn't work out. Whatever that means. I didn't post about it, but I did go over to my dad's house for dinner. Last week, it was nowhere near as bad as New Year's Eve, but Ryan still didn't really talk to me. There was one moment where I thought he and I had something to connect on, but he shut it down pretty quickly. So when I saw Ryan walk through the door, I was a bit concerned because he just doesn't like me, and he makes it pretty obvious, despite that the first hour and a half were fine. Ryan did say hi to me, well, to be more accurate, he said, "Sup, pretty boy," which was kind of annoying because that seems to be the name he's decided for me. I don't understand it or like it. I mean, yeah, I like to dress nice and take care of myself, but I'm not wearing makeup or spending hours in front of a mirror. But I just let it go and said, "Hi, Josh," and Ryan greeted each other. All was good. Ryan was just talking to our grandparents and my dad. He didn't talk to me or Josh other than saying hi, but that was fine. But then my grandma's timer went off of the pie, so I followed her to the kitchen and offered to take the pie out. Ryan followed us, and he made a comment about how I'm trying to come off as Mr. Nice Guy. It didn't even make sense. The oven is low to the ground, and she's an older woman, so why wouldn't I offer to get it for her so she doesn't have to bend down to me? That's just common courtesy. I wasn't trying to put on an act. I would do the same thing for my maternal grandma, but I just asked him to please not start with that because I just came to have a good weekend. He started to argue, but our grandma told him to knock it off and not to start a fight in her house. He said sorry to her and walked out of the kitchen. Oh man, I wanted to hug her and kiss her on the cheek. I thought, finally, there is an adult who sees how he acts, calls him out on it, and shuts it down instead of babying him. Granted, she did ask me to be patient because this is probably really hard for him to come to terms with that. He's not the only child or grandson anymore. I told her I'm completely fine with giving Ryan time and space. I just hate that he acts so unnecessarily rude. We were all having a good time, so why does he have to try to start drama just because I offered to take a pie out of the oven, anyway? So the rest of the night was fine. Ryan kind of shut down and was mostly quiet. My dad did pull him aside and talk to him at one point. I had what was said, but Ryan was more talkative to our grandparents after that. More specifically, he started recounting the greatest hits of his relationship with our grandparents. I think he was doing it on purpose, but maybe I'm just pessimistic. Either way, I ignored it, and we had a really great night. The pie was absolutely delicious. By the way, there was a minor issue when it came time to assign sleeping arrangements. They only have 2 extra rooms in their house, so originally it was going to be me and my dad each having our own room, but we went from 2 to 4 with Josh and Ryan added in, so my grandma suggested my dad take one room and me, Josh, and Ryan take the other, and I was just thinking, there's no way I'm staying in a room with Ryan overnight. I don't think either one of us would be comfortable with that. Josh and I told them we were fine sleeping on the couches in the living room so Ryan and my dad could have the rooms, but none of the adults were having it. So finally Ryan suggested he and our dad share a room and Josh and I take the other, which I thought was a good compromise. In TBH, I thought was really cool of Ryan to willingly give up the room. Josh and I were talking that night and we agreed, hopefully that was a sign that things were looking up with him. We were wrong. Update 6 weekend trip hard. 2. I just want to add a few quick notes. On my last post, a few people messaged me about Ryan's pretty boy comment. I truly don't think he meant it in any sort of creepy or homophobic way. Josh and I are just best friends, more like brothers, not that there would be anything wrong with us if we were gay, but we're not. I think Ryan calls me that as a way to try to emasculate me, and when I said I try to take care of myself, I just meant I try to keep my skin clear and have my hair neat so it doesn't look sloppy. I don't think that makes me a pretty boy, but apparently Ryan does. I know a handful of people said that I shouldn't have brought Josh to New York as it might have been too much for Ryan to handle. I explained that Josh was always going to be with me and my mom that night regardless of where we celebrated. So I just want to give a reminder that Josh was only with me this past weekend because I was going to be alone at first, even if I wasn't. Ryan was never supposed to be there. I'm still not sure what happened with his mom that caused him to join the trip last minute, but please keep that in mind as you read this post. So the next day we got up and went down to the lake. My grandpa showed us this little area nearby that is like an obstacle course kind of thing. I don't really know how to explain it. It's kind of what I would expect they used to train people in the military. It has balance beams, monkey bars, a tire section you have to hop through, etc. But anyway, he suggested that me, Ryan, and Josh run the course. Me and Josh were down, but Ryan said no because he's done it a million times already. We still tried to get him to do it with us. Josh even asked Ryan if he could walk us Through it, it's honestly pretty self-explanatory, but we were just trying to get Ryan to join us, but he insisted on doing it. Josh and I usually have friendly competitions with everything, so we made a friendly wager to see who could finish the course faster. So during it, we were taunting each other, like when I was ahead, I would turn around and give him underscore underscore, and then at the top of the climbing wall, he started doing a weird dance. It was hilarious to us, but of course, when we were done, Ryan